talks about them getting more depth and yada yada, but Aaliyah is the only real center we have. Where's the depth at the center position? Where's the size? We got 97 guards, man. I don't get it. Let's take a listen.
Yeah, I think continuing to build quality depth. I mean, look, it's hard because of the sample size of last year was so, construed because of all of the injuries. So we didn't really get a full look at what our team could have been. We were
Stephanie White has effectively revealed the entire blueprint. And if you've been paying attention to the language coming out of this coaching staff, the picture is no longer just worrying. It's turning into a tactical problem. The Indiana Fever aren't casually exploring the idea of shifting Caitlin Clark off the ball. They are actively constructing a roster designed to reposition the most dominant playmaker in women's basketball into a small forward role, not as a primary floor general or lead initiator. We're talking about a player who averaged elite assist numbers, who ran Team USA to a flawless record and earned MVP honors by controlling the offense from the point guard position, now being gradually moved into a role that strips away her greatest strength, total offensive command. This is modern basketball being misread at a structural level. What's unfolding inside the Fever organization isn't just noise or media reaction. It reflects deeper issues in roster design, role definition, and franchise direction. Today, we break down the X's and O's, the decision-making mindset behind the scenes, and why this strategic direction could seriously disrupt the team's long-term trajectory if it continues unchecked.
Did you guys get better defensively? I mean, Raven Johnson, when I looked at it, I thought might have been the best perimeter defender in the draft. But
Yep.
Is that how you saw it?
Yeah, for sure we got better. I mean, she was the defensive player of the year in the SEC, which is the toughest defensive conference in the country. She can guard really multiple positions. She takes great pride in being an elite defender. And oftentimes, and I remember we said this.
Let's connect the dots, because the signs have been building for over a year. Last July, Coach Stephanie White openly suggested that Caitlin Clark should spend more time off the ball to ease the pressure of full-court defensive schemes. And Clark's response was calm but direct. That control in the offense is exactly where she thrives. That's where the philosophical split first appeared. Fast forward to now, and after the drafting of Raven Johnson, White's recent media remarks become even more telling. She carefully categorized her guard group with precision. She labeled veteran guard Tasha Harris as a combo guard, framed Clark as someone who can operate both on and off the ball, and then distinctly highlighted rookie Raven Johnson as the true point guard. That kind of language isn't accidental. It signals hierarchy. When a head coach publicly assigns a defensive-minded rookie the primary floor general label, while describing a generational offensive engine like Clark as a flexible wing option, the direction of the system becomes clear. The Indiana Fever appear to be shaping a rotation where Johnson initiates, Kelsey Mitchell or Harris share secondary creation duties, and Clark is pushed into a more perimeter-heavy role rather than orchestrating everything. And here's the real takeaway nobody is properly addressing. Modern heliocentric basketball is built around maximizing one elite decision-maker, not redistributing that control into fragmented roles that dilute impact.
Background that they've had in the way they've been coached.
Yeah, I think we have to. We have to think about the way that they've been coached, the way that they've been challenged, the systems that they've been in. Does it prepare them to be great pros? Does it prepare them to be ready to be in rotation or not? What does the trajectory look like when you draft them? And certainly, you want players who have been challenged, who have been coached. And when you think about a point guard playing for
the push from Stephanie White toward a traditional, true point guard philosophy feels like a system built for a different era of basketball, not the modern game. In today's NBA and WNBA, the old model of a pass-first guard who simply initiates the offense and then fades into background is rapidly disappearing when teams have access to a heliocentric engine. Just look at Luka Doncic, LeBron James, and Nikola Jokic. These are not traditional point guards, yet they control every possession because their scoring threat, vision, and gravity demand full offensive control. That same reality applies to Caitlin Clark, whose elite assist production isn't just passing skill, but the direct result of defensive collapse the moment she crosses half court, warping coverage and stretching defenses in ways few players in the league can replicate. The problem is what happens when you disrupt that structure. If a low-volume shooter like Raven Johnson is tasked with initiating possessions, defenses can sag off shrink the floor, and clog driving lanes, which directly impacts interior dominance. That is especially critical for a finisher like Aaliyah Boston, whose effectiveness depends heavily on space created by perimeter pressure and pick-and-roll gravity. When Clark operates as the central hub, defenders are forced to step out, opening lanes and unlocking Boston's efficiency at the rim. But when that spacing collapses and Clark is shifted into a reduced on-ball role, the entire offensive geometry tightens. The issue isn't just role adjustment. It's the risk of undermining the very structure that makes the team's core pieces function at their highest level.
It's new for everybody. I think we got to be smart. She has worked her butt off this whole offseason to prepare herself. We have an added advantage in that she played games in March, right, with USA Basketball. And so she has game exposure. She has game pace. She has game rhythm. She has game timing. And so we have an advantage. But we also want to be smart. She doesn't need every rep in practice. Like we want to continue to ramp her up.
The numbers from last season paint a very clear picture. When Caitlin Clark was running the offense as the primary ball handler for the Indiana Fever, the team's attack looked dynamic, fast, and efficient, producing an offensive profile that could compete with elite teams like the New York and Las Vegas Contenders, supported by strong pace and a solid positive net rating that suggested real playoff potential. But when the ball was moved out of her hands, the entire system shifted into something far more static and predictable, with possession slowing down and efficiency dropping into average territory as the offense lost its natural rhythm. The contrast is so sharp it's like taking a high-performance machine and deliberately limiting its output. You can still use it, but you're no longer maximizing what makes it exceptional. That leads to the bigger question. If the data and spacing logic point so strongly in one direction, why is there such a clear push for a different structure? The answer goes beyond X's and O's and into organizational identity. Coaching and front office leadership often try to establish systems that reflect their own principles: defense, structure, control, and balance, especially for someone like Stephanie White, whose coaching background is rooted in disciplined, defensive-first basketball. When a franchise acquires a player as dominant as Clark, it naturally creates tension between system building and superstar empowerment. On one side is a narrative of transcendent talent shaping everything around her. On the other is a desire to prove that a structured system, defensive identity, and collective execution are the true foundation of winning. That tension can turn into an identity battle, where decisions aren't just about winning games, but about whose philosophy defines the team. And in that environment, even public messaging and past comparisons from the organization can come off as an attempt to reinforce control over a rapidly growing phenomenon, rather than simply maximizing it. When the host questioned Caitlin Clark's adjustment heading into the new season, Stephanie White didn't frame it around unlocking her full offensive power or building the system through her international momentum. Instead, she used careful corporate-style language, talking about managing reps, reducing overload, and being intentional about development. In plain terms, that messaging signals controlled workload approach, possibly even limiting stretches of her time on the floor, while a more structured, defensive unit runs the game. That kind of framing naturally raises questions, because you're not talking about an average rookie. You're talking about a primary offensive engine who just led elite international competition and thrives when the game flows through her decision-making. It creates an awkward contrast. Instead of amplifying her rhythm, the emphasis appears to be on regulating it. The deeper issue is philosophical. It's the classic tension between system control and superstar freedom, between building a rigid structure and fully empowering a player whose entire value comes from dictating tempo and creating chaos for defenses. As the Indiana Fever head into a crucial training camp window, every rotation decision becomes magnified. If Clark is allowed to initiate, control possessions, and dictate pace, the offense naturally opens up and other players benefit from that gravity. But if she's placed into more off-ball sequences, while others initiate, the spacing and rhythm shift dramatically, and the offense can become more predictable. That's why this moment feels so important. It's not just about lineups. It's about identity. Across the league, teams are evolving toward maximizing elite creators rather than restricting them. And that's what makes this debate so intense. Fans aren't reacting emotionally. They're reacting to structure, fit, and efficiency. And as training camp approaches, all eyes will be on how those ideas translate on the floor, because whatever direction is chosen will shape not just rotations, but the franchise's long-term trajectory.